What's going on, guys? Welcome back. FantasyTeamAdvisors.com, bringing home the bacon. NFL DFS video. It is our advice and value plays for NFL Week 3 for FanDuel and DraftKings. You can also use it for drafters to help you out picking plays over there. So, huge week on Week 2. Looking to just continue to grow with what we did there. So, I'm very, very excited about that. Before we get started, I do want to say, so most of you or some of you know I do have a 7-month-old, and last night, just hanging around, I was just talking to her, and she said her first word, which was exciting. It was dada. And I thought, you know what? I'm feeling really great about that. Let's do something for the people. So if you go to fantasyteamadvisors.com/plans or FTA Plus up here, you click on, for the month pass, you click on join. Use the promo code first word, all one word, all capital letters, first word. You're going to get half off for a month. Half off for 1 month. So get a full month for half off, or you can still get we have 2 of these passes left. The year pass, normally $3.99. You get $300 off right now if you sign up, if you join FTA Plus. All you have to do is join FTA Plus, Year Pass, click on FTA Plus there, use promo code YEARPASS99, that's all one word, all capital letters, YEARPASS99, you're going to get $300 off. You're going to get a year pass for $99. That entails 1 year from today. So as of right now, we do PGA, MLB, NBA, NFL, and MMA. So that is what I wanted to do. So half off a month. Use the promo code first word, or $300 off the year pass. Use promo code YEARPASS99. First come, first serve. Hopefully you guys are ready to rock and roll. So first, we're going to look at the over-unders. You can look at it. So if you sports bet, this is a good one. But we're going to look at the favors and then the over-unders there. So this will help kind of target the games you want to look at. Then we'll dig into the article that we have. And you can find the article down below. It will be in the description of the video. It should be the very first link down there. That is today's article. So go check that out. The more views it gets, the more I know you guys want to see it, the more we'll throw out there. And then we'll kind of talk about the matchup tool as well, which is a free tool up on the site, and we'll look at that. So looking at this, just looking at the games, how they go, you got the Bears and the Falcons. Defense have been giving up a ton of points. So I do like Mitch Trubisky here. I do like Matt Ryan, though. Falcons are currently a 165 favorite. It's a little lower on the over-unders, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes over that. But if Trubisky and Allen Robinson could connect, throw in a little bit of David Montgomery, Anthony Miller, I don't mind this at all. Next game, I think this one goes under the radar a little bit. So the Rams at the Bills. Josh Allen's been dominating back-to-back weeks of, I believe, over 33 fantasy points. The problem with the Rams, it's a running back by committee. Malcolm Brown broke a finger, then he had surgery, but he's going to play. Darrell Henderson stole some looks from him and then actually looked like he was the, lead back, and then Cam Akers is now out, so it's just been a cluster there. But I think this game goes under the radar a little bit. I'm going to get some exposure to this game. I do have exposure to Josh Allen, and I am pairing him up with Stephon Diggs there. Bills come in as a slight favorite and an over-under of 46.5. Washington football team and Cleveland Browns, Terry McLaurin maybe. There's not a lot to like here. The Browns are the huge favorite at 295. So, I mean, Washington was the underdogs in Week 1 against the Eagles, and they won, so that's something to look at. But, yeah, probably avoiding mostly of this game, but we do have an over-under of 45. Titans at the Vikings. I'm surprised the Titans are only a small favorite. The Vikings have just looked bad, and they lost one of their main defenders there. They just look terrible. If this game somehow is a shootout, I mean, they're looking at that, 49.5 over-under. I do like both sides of the ball a little bit. I will have some Ryan Tannehill, Corey Davis, Adam Humphries, Derrick Henry type. Looking at Jonnu Smith. I mean, Tennessee Titans stack, I don't mind at all. You want to get exposure on the other side of the ball, so Adam Thielen, I don't think I can trust Kirk Cousins with my money, but if you guys want to, go for it. Next game, the Raiders at the Patriots. Patriots are a 295 favorite, over under a 48. I do like that. San Francisco 49ers at the New York Giants. You got the 49ers as a 230 favorite. Jimmy G is out. Raheem Mostert is out. Tevin Coleman is out. George Kittle is out. And they are still this big a favorite. Nick Mullins is starting there. And Jerick McKinnon is your starting running back and Jordan Reed. So it's kind of crazy to see. Other things can happen. Obviously, the Giants being but then if you look at the other books, they're not quite as big favorites over here. So that is something about looking at different books if you are betting. But yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of people are going to flock to Devontae Freeman, which is crazy because you still have Deion Lewis, you still have Wayne Gallman in this game. Devontae Freeman might not even get any touches, so that is something to pay attention to. The over-under, though, is one of the smallest, if not the smallest, 41.5. Next one is the Bengals at the Eagles. Eagles are somehow a pretty good favorite here, 278 over on DraftKings Sportsbook. Carson Wentz has just looked bad. He has not looked good. I do want some exposure to probably Miles Sanders. You could go GPP for Boston Scott, possibly. But Miles Sanders is the one I'm looking at. Dallas Goedert as well. Cincinnati side of the ball, Joe Mixon, AJ Green, I don't mind. There's other games we can target. And the 47.5 over under, it's okay. Next game is the Texans at the Steelers. Steelers defense has been pretty stout. Texans, it's just too bad the Texans have never had a wide receiver that's just a stud. They don't really have many to throw to except Will Fuller, but he had a hamstring injury, so that's why he didn't get targeted at all in week 2. Kind of screwed us over. But yeah, so looking at this, David Johnson on there. You got James Conner, Juju. I love Juju. Love Roethlisberger. You go Deontay Johnson. You go James Washington if you want to get a little froggy there. But yeah, so that's that game. Next game, Jets at the Colts. Colts are a massive favorite. The Jets are just a mess. I mean, 600 there. Look at that. If you want to get crazy and do a little sports bet, you could go the Jets at plus 450, or over here William Hill plus 500. Put like $5 on there. Crazier things have happened. I'm just not going to lie about that. Next game, Panthers at the Chargers. Chargers are a pretty big favorite. Panthers are giving up the most amount of fantasy points to the running back position. That would lead a lot of people to look at Austin Ekeler, but if you've been watching or you've seen, Josh Kelly's pretty much out-touching Austin Ekeler here. Josh Kelly is a cheaper option. Think of Josh Kelly as like the Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon was basically, the 1, 2, 3 down back. Then Ekeler would come in and maybe vulture a touchdown or maybe get his yards. Josh Kelly's a cheaper option. People go all over Ekeler. Josh Kelly could win you some money this weekend. Next game, the Lions at the Cardinals. Cardinals are a 250 favorite here, 260, 250 over here. The over-under is 55.5. I want exposure to this game. I am all over Kyler Murray, Kenyan Drake, DeAndre Hopkins. You've got to be on the flip side because they're going to have to throw the ball there. So you could have a stack, a Lions and Cardinals stack. You could put TJ Hawkinson here, double digits, both first 2 weeks. It just depends on what wide receivers are good to go. In Detroit, there's going to be passes. I mean, if they're expecting them to be this high and a favorite right here, Cardinals are supposedly going to be up. The game script is going to say that. Then you've got the Lions who are going to have to throw the ball. So get exposure to both sides of this ball. I love this game here. Bucks at the Broncos. The Bucks are actually a favorite right now. Broncos, obviously Drew Lock is hurt. Jeff Driscoll is starting. I do love Noah Fant. Melvin Gordon I do love. And then Leonard Fournette kind of dominated last week instead of Ronald Jones. Looking at that. I don't mind this. The only problem is, there was no training camp. There was no preseason. So a team coming into Denver with the altitude, it does weigh on them a little bit. So that is something to pay attention to. But I mean, we saw Derrick Henry. He's a big man, and he ran all over Denver in Denver. So looking at the running backs here, I don't know if I'll have much exposure to Tom Brady, but maybe Mike Evans there in that situation. Next game is the Dallas Cowboys at the Seattle Seahawks. This game has the highest over-under. I love me Dak. I'm looking at Amari Cooper. I am looking at Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Chris Carson. I'm looking to have a lot of exposure to this game. Next one, the Sunday Night Football game, Green Bay Packers at the Saints. Drew Brees has looked pretty bad. See if he'll come through, but I do like both sides of this ball here. 53 over-under, I do enjoy that. Might have exposure to the single game format, but if you are playing like Sunday through Monday or Sunday only, this game, it needs to be in your repertoire and get some exposure to it. And then the final game is the Chiefs at the Ravens. This one has a 54 over-under. This is a Monday night game, so if you are playing like the Monday-Thursday game, or you're playing Thursday through Monday, or you're playing, Sunday-Monday, get some exposure to, or, I mean, you've got the Sunday-Monday where it's just the two primetime games. It's a lot of points to be had between these four. So yeah, that is what I'm looking at. Love that game. So you want to target the over-unders that are pretty big because you're going to get a lot of points and a lot of exposure in there. So that brings us to the article. So with this article, and please again, click the link down below in the description. That is this article, but we'll go over it. So usually we'll have 2 elite plays and 1 value play, and then other plays down below. And you can check out the article for the other plays. But elite quarterbacks here, Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott. I love them on both sites. We have them on FanDuel and DraftKings. As stated, he's absolutely dominated both the Falcons and the Patriots. Now he gets a matchup against the Cowboys defense that just gave up 39 points to Matty Ice and the Falcons. That's real game points. In the first 2 weeks of the 2020 campaign, Dallas has given up 59 game points. And now Wilson gets to absolutely feast on them. I do think his price should be a little bit higher, but if you're playing the Sunday main slate, he is the highest priced quarterback on the slate. To go along with that, you got Dak Prescott on the other side. So like I said, if you're going to want exposure to one side of the ball, you're going to want it on the other. First 2 weeks of the season, the Seahawks had given up an average 424 passing yards. Now, this is not the Legion of Boom. This is not the 12th man. It is in Seattle, but the crowd is not a factor there. That is the thing. Home field advantage really isn't that big. I don't know how loud the fake noise the crowd noise is that they shoot in there, but looking at that, it probably shouldn't affect them much. So I love Dak in this one. Game is shaping up to be a shootout from the get-go, and I mean in week 2, Dak had an amazing comeback. I absolutely love stacking Dak and Amari this week. For the most part, the outside corners have been just absolutely destroyed for Seattle each week. And now Cooper normally does line up on the outside. In the first 2 weeks, he's had 23 targets, and I just absolutely love him here. Dak already has 716 passing yards, and I am definitely looking to build around Dak. Zeke, no matter if it's a blowout or they're behind or they're ahead, as we saw last week, they were pretty far behind the whole game till the amazing comeback. Zeke was in that game plan the entire time. They were passing the ball, they're handing the ball off. So I love Dak, Zeke, and Amari as a stack here. And then a value one, Justin Herbert, Chargers versus the Panthers. I do like this. The whole Tyrod Taylor saga thing. Herbert came in week 2, out of nowhere, got the start. We didn't know why, now we do. 311 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown. He had a pretty damn good debut. Carolina's defense has given up 65 points in 2 games, and this could be a massive game for Herbert. His price is a little bit more value, like I say, on DraftKings, but again, you can pair him with Ekeler or Josh Kelly or Keenan Allen. He's a little bit cheaper again on DraftKings. He's $5,900, whereas on FanDuel they priced him up at $7,200 for some reason. So that is your value at QB. If you want to see the other QBs, click the link down below. Then your elite here, you got Austin Ekeler. He does come in as the starting running back, but I mean, again, there is caution. Josh Kelly is a problem, taking looks away from him. So kind of be wary of that. But looking at this, you could have conceivably, I think you could play both Ekeler and Josh Kelly and be okay with that. I don't mind that. And the Panthers defense has given up an average of 41.2 fantasy points per game to the opposing running backs. And I think Ekeler and Kelly could feast in this one. I don't mind at all if you use one or both in the same lineup. Get a little bit crazy, find that value, find the fantasy points. Another elite running back here is Kenyan Drake, the Cardinals versus the Lions. Like I said, this one should be a shootout. I love both sides of the ball. Looking at Kenyan Drake, I mean, it's got 55.5 over under. Kenyan Drake is absolutely loving this fast-paced offense. He's getting the ball in the passing and the rushing. The crazy thing is, Kyler Murray has more rushing yards than Kenyan Drake. So it's a little bit, what's the word? I mean, discouraging a little, but I mean, Kenyan Drake's still getting passing. So you're going to get a little bit more points on DraftKings with the PPR, but I mean, Drake has been able to rack up 146 yards and 1 touchdown and involved in the running game. I do love his price. Both FanDuel and DraftKings, I think a lot of people are going to pay up higher here for Derrick Henry or Chris Carson, and Kenyan Drake could come in there, be a little bit more value, 6,500 and 6,000. Finding some value here, Miles Sanders against the Bengals. After missing week 1 last week, Sanders busted through for 20 rushes, 95 yards and 1 touchdown. He did tack on 3 receptions for 36 yards. He does come in to week 3 with the second best matchup against a Bengals defense that's given an average of 35.5 fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. Again, he is another one that may lose some touches to Boston Scott, but this is Miles Sanders' team, and I mean, I think he absolutely could feast here. Definitely have him in your lineups. Miles Sanders makes a fantastic cash option. So if you want to see the other running backs we like, click the link down below. Then you've got the elite here, like I say, Amari Cooper, Dallas Cowboys at Seattle Seahawks. I love Amari Cooper, and I put that with Dak. I don't really need to write up here, but Cooper's, according to our matchup tool, Cooper is the #1 wide receiver to target this week against a Seahawks secondary who are giving up an average, it's only 2 games, but 55 fantasy points per game against the opposing wide receivers. That is just massive there. So if you want to pivot off of him, you could go Gallup, you could go CD Lamb for GPP, I do not mind, but Cooper needs to be in some of your lineups. In the first 2 weeks, Amari has 16 receptions on 23 targets for 181 yards, and that is unbelievable. That he still doesn't have a touchdown, but I do think he takes care of that. He gets in the touchdown column this weekend after the game. Another elite one, DeAndre Hopkins. Like I said, the highest over-under. It's very fast-paced. DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to be super expensive, but, I mean, what else? I mean, in 2 games this year, Hopkins has 22 catches on 25 targets for 219 yards and 1 touchdown. So 2 games, 219 yards. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if he does get 1 or 2 fantasy points, or touchdowns, 1 or 2. He's going to get 1 or 2 fantasy points. I love pairing him up with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Kenyan Drake in your lineup. Flip side of that gets some Detroit in there. I absolutely love this matchup for him. And then a value play here, Corey Davis, Titans at the Minnesota Vikings. Like I said, the Minnesota Vikings are, looking atrocious. The Titans come in to this game with the second best matchup against the Vikings. Vikings are giving up, their secondary is giving up 44.8 fantasy points per game to wide receivers. A.J. Brown already being ruled out. I love Corey Davis here. Corey Davis and Adam Humphries are 2 targets in the wide receiver range in this game that I think you could look at. I think Corey Davis is more of a cash play. Adam Humphries for GPP, but interchangeable. In 2 games this year, Davis has 10 receptions on 13 targets for 137 yards and a touchdown. I do think he goes under-owned. I do want to take advantage of this pricing here. And I honestly, just a projection, I could see at least 5 catches and 1 touchdown versus the Vikings, if not more. And his price is just juicy, both FanDuel and DraftKings. FanDuel 5,300, DraftKings 5,200. So if you want to see the other wide receivers, click the link down below. Elite plays Travis Kelce, Chiefs at the Ravens. I mean, he's the most expensive tight end. He's on the Monday night game, so that is something to pay attention to. But the over-under is massive. And the Ravens defense are giving up the 6th most amount of fantasy points to tight ends with 17.1 fantasy points per game. The downside of the Chiefs offense is they have a lot of weapons. You know this. Normally, only 1 or 2 of those weapons go off in the same game. Hopefully it's Kelce. We'll see. But again, if you're only playing like the main slate, then this play really won't factor in. But I wanted to bring that to your attention. 2 games this season, Kelce has 15 receptions, 20 targets for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. Will not be surprised if we don't see Kelce. I mean, I'd be surprised if Kelce doesn't get at least 1 touchdown this game. Then another elite play, Tyler Higbee, the Rams at the Bills. We were all over him last week, and he absolutely dominated. He was targeted 5 times in week 2. He went 5 for 5 with 54 yards, so very small yardage, but 3 touchdowns. I mean, he dominated, and he was in our lineups going back to the well with this one. I do feel like he'll be a very, very popular, maybe an over-owned tight end pick, because a lot of the fish that play DFS will only look at the box score, only look that he had X amount of fantasy points on FanDuel and DraftKings, and only build a lineup using that information. But I do see, the Bills' defense, pretty good. They do have to contend with Jared Goff, Robert Woods, as well as 2 running backs. We don't know who's going to get the ball. That could make Higbee, the best secondary is not going to be on Higbee. They're going to have to take Robert Woods down, because if they're on Higbee, then Woods is going to have a great game. If they're on Woods, Higbee could have a good game. We just saw that last week. In 2 weeks, Higbee has 8 receptions on 9 targets, 94 yards and 3 touchdowns. All 3 touchdowns did come last week. I think he's more of a GPP pick, but I do like Higbee this week. And then a value pick here, depending on what you're playing. But Drew Sample on DraftKings is 3,500. CJ Uzama is out for the season. He tore his ACL last Thursday. Drew Sample is the next man up in that situation. I do love his price on both sites, especially on DraftKings. Like I said, he's super cheap. But the Eagles' defense has given up the 4th most amount of fantasy points at 18.8 fantasy points per game in the first 2 weeks. After Uzama went down in week 2, we saw Sample reel in 7 catches, was targeted 9 times, did have 45 yards. I do think he'll be more of a GPP play, but I think he'll be an under-owned GPP play that could pay off his price at 3,500 or even 4,800 on FanDuel pretty easy this week. So that being said, guys, if you want to see the other tight ends, click the link down below. If you found this video at all helpful, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, so you know when we go live. We'll try to answer questions. You can ask questions here. Stardom send them questions here as well. Go follow us on all of the social media, which if you go to fantasyteamadvisors.com, you can find all the social media up here. You got our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and our YouTube page. And just looking at the matchup tool, it is free. You can check that matchup tool out. Go to NFL matchup tool. And what I'm going to try to do is get this all in here, and I'm going to see if I can make it a table that you guys can download as well. So a CSV that you guys can download and build off of yourself. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know down below. But yeah, so you can see it's sorted out by the most amount of fantasy points allowed, who's going up against that, and it's not always going to be correct. Like Gardner Minshew did not have a good game. It's a fact. But he was number 3 according to the Dolphins. But the Dolphins' defense looked head and shoulders above how they've looked the first 2 weeks. So that is something to look at. We've got running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, Vegas, and matchups. So the over-unders, who's projected to win that game. Then we have the red zone passing. So who throws in the red zone the most, who gets in the red zone the most. red zone rushes. So what player gets the most amount inside the 10, inside the 20, inside the 10, inside the 5. And same thing with red zone receptions as well. So go check all of that information out. If you have any questions at all, please feel free, comment down below or email me, support@fantasyteamadvisors.com. That's all I've got in this video, guys. Again, make sure you subscribe to this page, hit the bell notification so you know when we go live or when we post videos to help you out. Comment down below any stardom, sit-em questions, try to answer those along with year-long and DFS. Good luck, guys, this week, and as always, bring home that bacon. Peace.